When 100K for Bitcoin, are things about to turn around for the cryptocurrency markets as the Bitcoin convention, Donald Trump, as crypto goes more mainstream? Also, what could be fueling this speculation is the fact that the SEC seems to be walking back on some of their tight grip regulation and rules. We'll talk about which exact one we're talking about and why this could be potentially massive for the industry and for retail to start coming in. We're also going to have talk a little bit about MasterCard and who they decided to partner with, some Solana news. We're going to take a look at the markets. And we have some insight and things we want to share with you for Joe Biden's press conference. It's going to be a good one today. Let's go.
Hey.
No, hola?
I'm not doing the hola, I'm sorry.
Only Robin likes to do the hola.
That's
Rocco refused the hola yesterday. Ashley's refusing it
I
today.
won't
Chase,
do it.
would you like to do the hola? Chase said no. I'll just
Darn
answer
it.
for you. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm joined by our production team, Rocco, Chase. Also, Ashley is
here.
co-hosting with me today. And also, my bestest buddy in the whole wide world. It's none other than my man, Forrest. Forrest, what's up, brother? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
You putting a trade in or what? What are we buying, Forrest? What are we buying, bro?
Just checking the existing ones.
They looking good?
So far, so good.
Trump's at like what,
Long
$6.50?
and strong.
$6.50. Yeah. You know, I couldn't help myself, man. When I got down to $5, under $5, yeah. Fun conversation at the dinner table with my wife explaining, what is this transaction? Anyways, so you saw the thumbnail on today's show. It is $100,000. You might be saying, well, what are you talking about, David? We're at not even at 60K. Why 100? Well, $100,000, this number has been thrown around constantly by some of the brightest minds in our space, by some random people on Twitter. But here we go. I want to share this, and then I'm going to talk about what Matt Hogan, what he sent out to the investors of Bitwise and his thesis on why he's so bullish on Bitcoin and potentially 100K by the end of the year. And so here we go. So first is headline, right? Several tailwinds could push Bitcoin to $100,000. What are some of those tailwinds? Again, this is from the Bitwise note to investors. Massive tailwinds at crypto's back. So first is extraordinary inflows into the spot ETF products, right? Talks about since launching in January, $15 billion in new net assets have flowed into Bitcoin, the most successful ETF of all time. The halving, of course, reducing the supply by 50%. That is one tailwind. The spot Ethereum ETF is another one that Matt lists in this note. A sea change in Washington's attitude towards crypto. Again, with nominee and former President Donald Trump, with the independent candidate RFK Jr. And now we have news that the Gary Gensler and the SEC are kind of walking back some of their strict regulations around crypto. They've dropped a bunch of Wells notices, or at least come out and say, look, we've issued the Wells notice, but we're not going to pursue legal action. They did another one today. We'll talk about which project, which layer 2 solution that got dropped on. And then a couple of things, Fed rate cuts. The Fed funds rate markets are pricing in 2 rate cuts by the end of 2024. And then he talks about some short-term headwinds, right? Things that could potentially bring the prices down. Mt. Gox distribution. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Sales of the Silk Road seized Bitcoin. So we know the U.S. government has around $12 billion in Bitcoin. Now, I do want to mention a lot of this is still tied up in litigation, so it's not available and accessible to be able to sold on the open market. And we've seen previously with how the U.S. government has sold, they typically sell into upward price movement, which is what you should be doing, Germany. And then German government sells. That is almost over. They got like $180, $200 million left to sell. So those are some of the headwinds, but the tailwinds here are pretty interesting. Forrest, out of these tailwinds here, is there one that you really are hanging your hat on or really think could be the massive injection of adrenaline as far as the price action? Is it the continuous inflows in the ETF, the halving, the Ethereum ETF, Washington's change against crypto, or Fed rate cuts?
I think the number one tailwind for me isn't even in there, and that's the 12 or no, not the 12, the 15 billion in FTX distributions to go out in Q4.
Ah.
That to me, I mean, like you see the damage that the 3 billion Germany Bitcoin selling did. Now imagine an injection of $15 billion, not just into the hands of people in general. Like these are crypto users. These are crypto users from last cycle that are native to the space. So I mean, all of those things are very, very positive. And then you look at like, the Silk Road, $12 billion in Bitcoin. That's not, like you said, that's potentially delayed for a while. Mount Gox, I'm not too worried about because it's, a lot of that's just going to find its way back into the market, into the altcoin market. But that $12 billion, sorry, if I keep saying 12, the $15 billion in FTX distributions, I think is very, very underrated, and it should hit in Q4, I think early December, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you think that's enough for us to push the price to that 100K mark that everyone's kind of talking about?
I don't know so much about Bitcoin. My targets for Bitcoin are 80 to 100K or 80 to 120K. I could see us going over 100K. By the end of the year, that's going to be a tall order, but hey, I mean, I think we're reaccumulating right now, and we're probably going to see a really big move. Whether that move takes us to 80K or 100K, your guess is as good as mine. I'm not 100% certain on. I'm thinking 80 to 100K by the end of the year, but I don't want to tie myself to 100K or higher. It's going to be tough.
So your base case is, you said 90 to 120 for Bitcoin, which from the market bottom, right? That 15K, that would be less than a 10x for Bitcoin. And then from the last cycle high of 69,000 to only 90 to 120, that's pretty, talk about diminishing returns. Do you like in your scenario, because I'm in more of the, closer to maybe $250,000 range, what would have to happen for that 250,000 versus just 100K or 120K? Is there something specific that kind of sticks out in your mind? Is it like a nation state adopting it, or?
No, I think even if nation states adopted it, I'd still stick to maybe 150K. But I think based on diminishing returns and just the profitability of mining. So like if Bitcoin goes to $250,000, mining becomes so profitable that miners are just turning around and dumping all their Bitcoin on the market, and that starts dragging price down. And then you have more miners plugging in, and you kind of see this kind of boom and bust cycle every time. So, maybe briefly we could touch like that $250,000 level if some crazy good news happened, but I would expect Bitcoin to regulate back down in the quote unquote bear market, or the off years of the cycle, somewhere between 60 and 90, maybe $100,000. And that's just based on like the mining sell pressure. Like those miners are constantly going to be selling the higher Bitcoin goes. It kind of has this, and then it's not even that the miners have more Bitcoin to sell. Yes, there's but the Bitcoin that they do have to sell is worth more and more and more. So like right now, if they're mining, if a miner is mining, what is it, 450? I could be wrong on the numbers right now. I think it's 450 Bitcoin mined per day. Well, that 450 Bitcoin mined per day at $60,000 is not that bad of an overhead being sold into the market. But if that 450 Bitcoin mined per day is $250,000 each, it's all of a sudden that's significant sell pressure on the market. So I think it'll just downregulate more towards like.
But Forrest, can I make two arguments just to play devil's advocate here? One, we've always had the miners selling, right? And we've had even more accelerated growth. And so you can look at historically, as prices start to really rise, miners, yes, they sell, but price will still able to appreciate a lot more than a 10x. And also, wouldn't it be beneficial to the miners as the price goes up, because you have to sell less Bitcoin to get the same amount of money as if you were selling at, let's say, 80K versus selling at 200K?
On the second half for a time period, but then it gets way more competitive because it's super profitable to be mining. More miners plug in, and then it gets diluted again. That's what kind of creates the whole boom bust cycle. Like, so, I did the math real quick here. It would be 450 Bitcoin per day mined per day times $250,000 Bitcoin. That's 100 just from miners. $112.5 million per day being sold into the market. That's 112. I mean, I, I that's tough to make up. I mean, we see what happens when Germany's selling, a couple hundred million a day to 400, 500 million a day. That over the course of an entire year, I think it's tough to match. I personally, I just see like 80 to 120K as being kind of the sweet spot. Anything above that, I think gets down regulated. If it hits 150, 160K, I think that'll be our blow off top, and then it kind of falls back down to that 90 to 120K region.
I'm curious what the chat thinks. If you're with Forrest and you believe 90 to 120K will be the top for Bitcoin, put a 1 in the chat or use Forrest emoji if you're a member of the channel. And if you're more on my side as far as maybe closer to $250,000, put a 2 or put my emoji if you're a member. I'm curious to see what the chat thinks. Before I move any further, I do want to give a big thank you to today's channel sponsor, Cams Blue Wire Technology. Today's crystal clear 4K stream is brought to you by Cams. They're one of the leaders in the world of cybersecurity and networking for your business. So if you own a business, you want to maximize everything IT, networking, and cybersecurity, visit bluewiretech.com or click the link in the description of this video. Now, in the Matt Hogan note to investors, he talked about inflows from the Bitcoin ETF. Well, yesterday, we're starting to see a little taper down here. So we saw July 9th, so this was on Tuesday, $216 million of inflows. And then July 10th, Wednesday, $147 million. So about, 60 million less. And then yesterday, down again. Now it's sub 100 million, 78.9, with BlackRock leading the way at 72.1 million of inflows. Fidelity came in at number 2, 32.7 million. Grayscale saw outflows of $37.7 million, bringing our net flow to positive 78.9. Any commentary on the inflows, Forrest? You think we're going to start seeing we're going to see dwindling down again? Does this right here this week, Forrest, Friday, and then this week, does this kind of paint you a picture of Wall Street is here to buy the big Bitcoin dips?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. I mean, yeah, I think as soon as Bitcoin goes back over $65,000, they're going to be less interest. I think that the inflow days will be, a little bit lower. Hopefully we'll still see net positive inflows. We don't want to see outflows. If we go back up to $69,000 and then all of a sudden we have like these big outflow days, that means they're just turning around and selling it for a profit immediately. They're not holding it with a long-term in mind, which is not what we necessarily want to see. But yeah, I mean, this is indicative of they are buying the dip. We fell, down below 60K, and then all of a sudden those inflows ramped right up. So there's some hunger there to buy Bitcoin under 60K.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree, Forrest. Numbers don't lie, right? And so when you see a big price depreciation of an asset, and you see the ETF that literally tracks the asset and has the asset as the underlying commodity, people start buying it, it's very easy to make that correlation, right? And then I want to talk about this. So Coinbase put this out. So there's a headline article. Coinbase is looking to bring or create an all-in-one crypto app. And so I haven't seen this video. I just read the article. So you're going to get my raw reaction. But Forrest, I want to kind of get your reaction too, and we'll kind of discuss it. Just in case it's copywritten. So introduce a new era of the Coinbase wallet. Connect all your wallets. Okay. Okay, interesting. All your crypto in one place. So it looks like it's going multi-chain, collectibles, prizes, games. Kind of this maybe feels like Telegram on steroids, kind of, right? I mean, Telegram, of course, their wallet functionality is, as far as I know, is only Toncoin, but if you can connect all your wallets and kind of have everything in one place, and, Forrest, I think, I feel like I'm speaking for both of us here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the reasons we're so bullish on Solana is because The products, services, and dApps that are continuously being built are very user focused, right? Very focused on UI, UX, the user experience, keeping things simple, keeping things fast, cheap, and easy. Any reaction to this, and whether you think that this is actually a good idea or some functionalities that maybe you're kind of excited about?
Yeah, I mean, it's another competitor in the marketplace, and competition is good. I don't know. We'll see how their fees are and what their value extraction from their Coinbase wallet is. I know Coinbase does have pretty high fees on from from a retail perspective. So we'll see if they try to extract a lot of value there. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully they're pretty competitive and don't charge extra fees. But anything that's putting a focus on onboarding new people, new money, and has a user friendly interface, then I'm a fan of it. Even yesterday, somebody I know was trying to buy a Solana meme coin, and they only had experience with Uniswap and MetaMask, so they didn't even know what the main Solana wallets were. So I had to kind of walk them through Backpack or Phantom, and they didn't know what the exchange was. They got to use Jupiter. So having it all in one place like that, and just a familiar, friendly user interface like Coinbase, could be big for a lot of people.
I agree with you. I mean, can you imagine, Forrest? And again, I keep going to the Toncoin thing, but when Rocco and I sat down and did it, it was like, hey, just prompt the wallet, type in wallet in the search bar, and it prompts you, right? You can have something similar to the point where in your scenario, you got to pick up the phone, call them, hey, download this. All right, once you download it, you got to send some here. Okay, now you send it there. Now you got to go to the web browser on the bottom. Now you got to go juke.ag. Then you got to do this and this. If you can just download a Coinbase wallet, it prompts you, especially I think with AI and everything, the acceleration of technology and artificial intelligence, and bots being able to literally walk people step by step on exactly how to do it. Because I feel like I speak to a lot of people, and a lot of their discernment is with how maybe crypto seems complicated. Like to us, we do this thing every day, right? You watching, you Forrest, me, Rocco, the people that have been in the space for a while, we do this stuff every day, so it seems easy to us. But for someone who's never bought a single token, never downloaded a single app, never downloaded a single wallet, it seems like a daunting task, right? Especially when you sit there and try to explain to them how to do it. And hey, you got to make sure to double check the address, because if there's one wrong letter or number, you could lose all your money. Or hey, write down the seed phrase, don't screenshot it, don't save it here. You got to hide it under your bed and laminate. It's just, it kind of you start talking like that, and people just tune out. They're like, yeah, it's really not worth it. And so if we can create products and services, and shout out to Coinbase, shout out to Solana, shout out to all the projects and companies that are looking to do this, to make it super similar, I can say, hey, just download the Coinbase wallet app and follow the prompts in there. Bam. Port over this wallet, or create a new wallet, or buy this with your credit card or debit card, link your bank account, and it does all that for you. I think it's only going to help with onboarding the next big wave of users. And we talk about retail. You kind of need these things for retail to come in, stay in, and kind of pump your bags. Any final thoughts on this topic for us before I move forward?
No, I think you covered it well.
Cool. All right, so I did mention the SEC and Gary Gensler having taken some L's. Well, if you guys remember, 3 years ago, the SEC was investigating Stacks, the layer 2 protocol for BTC. News. SEC officially drops their 3-year investigation into Stacks with no action. Earlier this week, we received word from the SEC that after 3 years, they are terminating their investigation into the Stacks blockchain and the Hero system with no action. Stacks did the first ever SEC qualified offering in 2019. So listen to the idiocracy of this. Come in and register. The rules are there. Okay. Hi, we're Stacks. We'd like to do an ICO. What do we need to do? Okay. Yeah. Yada, 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 or whatever they were told or not told. They do it, and then they get freaking investigated. Coinbase files an IPO. SEC approves it. Then they get investigated. They get a Wells notice filed. It's like an upside down world. I don't understand. In what realm of reality is this even okay? So thankfully, not only are they starting to walk back on some of the asinine things they're doing and referring to the SEC, which we'll go over that in a little bit, but Wells notices are going away. Investigations are going away. Could it be political pressure? Could it be peer pressure from the other commissioners in the SEC? Who knows? But we knew. Now we know. Maybe we didn't know 3 years ago that this was all a sham, and everything you're seeing happening now is proving that very point. So again, Stacks did the first ever SEC qualified offering. The ecosystem decentralized before the mainnet launched in January 2021. And then in June, the SEC launched their investigation. So the whole thing is, when it launches, it's not decentralized. So that's where the security part comes in. And sure, it could get decentralized over time. But at the time you raised money and did an ICO, you weren't decentralized. Stack said, okay, fine. We'll get our project to the point of decentralization, and then we'll do the ICO, which is what they did, and they still got investigated. So we're pleased that the SEC dropped the investigation. We need a regulatory system that needs, and then goes on to kind of talk about their thoughts. But what's your thoughts here for us? What's your take? Is the SEC, even under the current administration that has been proven to be not very friendly to crypto, are we seeing a pivot here after seeing the Wells notice dropped for, who did they just drop their Wells notice? Paxos and Binance stablecoin, right? BUSD, that Wells notice is gone. We can potentially assume Uniswap's Wells notice is going to be gone. Now, this one with Stacks, what are your thoughts on where we're going, and if you want to speak more to the Stacks one in particular?
Yeah, kind of two theories there. One being that this is just straight up political, and you have one political administration, the one that's in charge right now, that has been very, very anti-crypto from top to bottom for their entire administration. Like we've just seen no crypto friendliness from this administration whatsoever. Now that we're seeing crypto become an election topic, and a topic that's going to decide for a lot of people who they vote for, I think there's pressure to walk back on this. And even today, I think Tom Emmer was calling for Gary Gensler to step down. I mean, they've gone so overboard with how unfriendly they've been with crypto. So either the source, in my opinion, the source is like two places. Just, the current administration is just very, very anti-crypto and has been that way for the last 4 years. And now they're potentially very likely on their way out. And it's becoming a political issue. So now they can't be as harsh on crypto because they're losing votes. Alternatively, the more conspiratorial point of view would be like maybe BlackRock has been pulling strings to suppress crypto in a way to long enough for them to get their hands in the mix. And now that they are primed and ready to go, they've got the Bitcoin ETF, they've got the Ethereum ETF, and I think they're investing in MakerDAO, which is a DeFi project on ETH. Now that they're poised and actually ready, maybe they are, if you're a conspiracy type of person, you think BlackRock has a lot of power to pull strings behind the scenes. Maybe they are saying, hey, lighten up on crypto now. We want this thing to start running now that we have a piece of the pie. Could be a little bit of both, could be one or the other, but I think those are the two theories that I've got.
As far as you're referring to BlackRock, correct, with the MakerDAO thing?
Yeah, BlackRock to invest. Saw some news there. We got a little spike there, up 12.5% this week, but it looks like just on the day up about 5%. There's like an investment fund that BlackRock's going to be investing in. So we also saw some little pumps today in some other DeFi as a result of that. I think Aave's up pretty decently today. Uniswap up, not too bad today. So. Wherever Aave's at, Aave's had a nice little pump. I think Aave's further down, like in the 60s or 70s.
Right here, 54.
Oh, there it is.
Up 3%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's up, 23% on the week. So I think there's some speculation rolling into Ethereum DeFi because BlackRock's really, really starting to get involved there. And then Ondo, of course, backed by BlackRock. So
yeah, that BlackRock effect, bro.
Player.
It's real. It's real, and it's got multiple prongs to it. One is, hey, they got a lot of money. 2 is they're very powerful. They got a lot of pull. 3 is they line the pockets of the people that make the rules and regulations and the bureaucrats that are non-elected, Gary Gensler. And so it's like, hey, if BlackRock wants it, they get it. And we've seen that happen twice already. Bitcoin ETF, Ethereum ETF. Very interesting. Before I get into the markets, so we had our commander-in-chief yesterday, doing his press conference, and well, we just want to share a few clips with you. So these don't even need a setup, but yeah, here you go.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Dude, when I saw that yesterday, I was like, he's done. He is so done. That is like saying, and the prime minister of Israel, fill in the name of the guy who ruled Germany back in the 30s. It's just as bad. And then you had this one as well, little Joe Biden compilation. You know, just put a smile on your faces, guys. Okay.
I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea. I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip.
Just like randomly blurts words. What are you doing? A lot of people are saying he's hallucinating and seeing ghosts. This is probably my favorite
I've been given
mock-up here.
a list of people to call on here. But he thought he votes in airfares. Republicans. I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president.
That was funny. His very first question said, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump. To which, you know, this is a really good point for us. And shout out to Jarvis, said, it is actually illegal for Vice President Trump to run against Biden because they're on the same ticket. Big brains, brilliant move by President Joe Biden tonight. Any thoughts for us? And maybe if you can somehow help me out here and tie crypto somehow into this little montage we showed. I think.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, I think this whole election is one of the biggest opportunities in the entire crypto space to potentially make some money. Particularly with Politify tokens and meme coins. I've been betting on them very aggressively for the past year. I first got into Trump token in September of last year when it was like 5, 6, 7, 8 cents, whatever it was, like under 10 cents. There's other political tokens that are potentially have potential to run pretty hard depending on what candidates get selected. We're in a really weird spot with Politify in that, like, a lot of these tokens are washed out and very cheap right now because the market's washed out and Bitcoin's below 60K and we've seen huge corrections in altcoins. And then there's still all this uncertainty around the candidates that are going to be running, at least on the Democrat ticket. And then we still don't have the candidate, you know, our vice president candidate for the Republican ticket. So I think once those people get picked, you'll see a lot of their tokens, their respective tokens, probably run pretty hard. So if you can guess who those candidates are going to be, there's potentially a lot of money to be made. Or you could just bet on Polymarket, which is just a predictions market, if you feel like you know who it's going to be. Personally, I think it'll be some combination of Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, and maybe Gavin Newsom. I think those are like the three that'll, you know, 2 out of those 3 will probably find their way onto the Democrat ticket. And they have all got, you know, tokens to bet on. So, yeah.
Is there one you're more...
What I've been doing.
Is there, I mean, feel free to, if you don't want to share this, you don't have to, but is there one you're more kind of looking to allocate towards than the others?
I have just hold on, big alert here. German government runs out of Bitcoin. They're officially out. They're zeroed out. No more Bitcoin for Germany.
Done.
Sorry, I just saw that. I got that alert on my phone. I figured I'd share people.
Oh yeah, that's great,
celebrate. Man. No, but to answer your question, yeah, it's high risk, high reward. But if you study poker or probability like EV, I personally think there's a much higher chance that they put in Michelle Obama than a lot of other people, and then what the market thinks. The market thinks Michelle Obama has like a 5% chance to win the whole election. I think there's a pretty decent chance that they put her on the ticket. And I know that's an unpopular opinion. She said she doesn't want to run. I don't really believe what people say. I just know that the polls, if you just look at the polls, right, she is the only candidate that polls ahead of Donald Trump in the polls. Like even if they Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden, they all lose to Trump in the polls. So if they want to put in a candidate that they can win with, it kind of has to be Michelle Obama. So for that reason, I think it's a higher chance that she runs, and the Michelle Obama token that I've been buying. It's like a $3 or $4 million market cap. I think it'll probably 50 to 100x if she runs. Obviously, knock on wood, like you can't predict the future. If she doesn't run, it'll probably go to zero. You lose your money. But if she does run, I think it's probably going to run pretty hard, assuming crypto bounces back. So if you think there's a decent chance that she runs, I think it's a decent bet. I definitely wouldn't go all in on it, because if she doesn't run, it goes to zero, right? So you just kind of have to balance the sizing there, and according to your risk profile.
And Forrest, I appreciate you kind of throwing that disclaimer out there that, hey, if it doesn't play out like you think it is, it's going to zero. And so, but it's the thing of it like gambling, right? You're gambling. You're making a futures bet. Who's going to win the Super Bowl in February of next year? You can put those bets in now at better odds because no games have been played, right? Nothing's been announced. You can place these bets. Another one is the potential VP candidate that Trump is going to pick. There's a lot of speculation around that. Is it Vivek Ramaswamy, J.D. Vance, Doug Burgum? So that's another sector of how you can, another way you can capitalize on potentially making a lot of money, very, very high risk, but also potential very, very high reward if you hit the nail on the head. So these are just some of the things, whatever's happening, there's I feel like there's always a way to capitalize and make money on every situation. With that being said, let's take a look at the markets here. So Forrest, I'm just going to go over the top 10, and then if we can jump into if you want to prompt the Bitcoin chart. So BTC running a little bit here, up 0.25% over the last hour, 1% over the last 24 hours, $58,436. ETH at 3147. BNB token 536, up 8% over the week. Solana looking to reclaim that $140 level, up almost 1% over the last 24 hours. XRP rallying as well, up 4.5% over the last 24 hours. Toncoin kind of flat. Doge flat. Cardano up 41.53 cents. We did do a Cardano video that will be going live in about an hour and a half. So if you're an ADA fan, you definitely want to watch that video. But Forrest, we didn't really get to do a Bitcoin chart yesterday. What are you seeing on the BTC chart? Does it look like the local bottom is in?
Yeah, I think, you could always get some bad news here or there that, we're very vulnerable right now under this 59K range that I'm going to pull up here. We're on the daily chart. We're looking at the Coinbase chart. One thing of note is a couple things of note. We could talk this chart all day long, but we look at RSI on the daily. We had our bullish divergence, right? And you can get kind of a triple bullish divergence, which would be a very strong buy signal. So if we did do something like this, where we spilled over again and made a higher high, or a higher low rather, in RSI, like, you would definitely want to be buying around $50,000 to $51,000 anywhere, on this new low. That's not my base case. I think Bitcoin's making a run to reclaim 59K as we speak. Now, Germany's out of Bitcoin. That probably means that they just moved their last Bitcoin onto exchanges. So I would imagine over the course of the next, probably by the end of the day, they may have another 100, the last couple 100 million to sell. So don't be surprised if Bitcoin doesn't just, go to the moon here. Although it is making a nice move. It's making a nice move. One thing that to keep in mind as well, down here I've got the Coinbase Premium. Coinbase Premium means essentially it's very bullish when people are paying a higher price, both whales and retail, paying a higher price for Bitcoin on Coinbase than on other exchanges. So you can see that Coinbase Premium was very, very, very low. We saw it nuke on a lot of other exchanges, but this is pretty much fully recovered, and that Coinbase Premium on the 4-hour chart has been restored. So that is one thing that's bullish. But most importantly, just the price action here. We've had a couple things happening right now. We've got this set of higher lows here into an ascending triangle underneath our range. Our range low is 59K. That's the level we need to reclaim. We've gotten rejected twice, right? We've got this bull flag going into this 59K level. So we have a bullish setup on really two bullish setups. We do also have an ascending triangle going into 59K, right? We need to get above 59K and hold it. Now, we could just get above it and start just closing daily candles above it. That'd be super bullish. or we could back test it, which is most likely, right, and hold over here and around 59K. That would be very, very, very bullish. This is your signal. Getting in, reclaiming 5960K, that is your signal if you're going to be buying aggressively, right? You can make the case for as long as we're below 59K, I want to stay out of the market, I don't want to be buying, being a little bit more risk averse. But this is your signal that the market's very, very likely going to resolve higher. I say that, and I'll give you, I think we've gone over examples on this channel before. I'll give you a ton of examples here just in this bull market so far of range reclaims, right? You might feel like you've missed the dip once we get back over into the range. You have not missed the dip if this thing's going higher, right? You could have bought all the way up here at $41,000, and then we ended up ripping to 70 plus, right? You did not miss the dip just because you didn't buy the bottom below the range. Same thing, in prior cases where we've lost the range, usually it just rips much, much higher. Even when we saw the bankings, the banks go under, $21,000 was reclaimed. You could have bought in even at 24 and still been in a nice trade all the way up to 30 plus, and then if you held long enough, up to 70. So range reclaims are generally very bullish. We captured this last range reclaim back last time we fell under 59K. We reclaimed it, and we were able to ride this all the way up to range highs. So 59K gets reclaimed and held for 12 hours, 24 hours, a day or two. You want to start getting bullish and have a list of cryptocurrencies that you want, coins and tokens that you want allocation to, because we are probably going higher. If we get rejected, that is not a good look. We don't want to fall out of an ascending triangle. Then we've got to go and hopefully hold this level over here, which I don't have marked out, but big level is 56.5. It's our prior range low, our prior wick low from the last time we fell out of the range. And you really want to see that hold. If we lose 59, and we held this last night, right? Last night we came down to this level. We held it, very good sign. It was starting to move back up and try to reclaim our range. If we get rejected here, we want to hold this again. If we don't hold it, then that's where I'm, probably going to get bearish and, look for that triple bullish divergence on the RSI, look to buy somewhere around 50K and run things back up.
Forrest, can you take a look at a Cardano chart? And I mentioned earlier, did a Cardano video. Cardano is moving up against Bitcoin. It took out one high, but there's around a 10% left to go. Take out another high on BTC. But whether you want to look at ADA BTC or ADA USDT, what is that chart looking like to you? What's the setup? Is it bullish? Is it bearish?
Yeah, so it's a lot of charts right now are simply just looking for these reclaims. So you can see I've already got this range, marked out, and it's just one line on this chart. It's at 41.7 cents. Call it 42 cents. Above 42 cents, this is a constructive chart. Above 42 cents, this is a range reclaim, and we can continue. It's a on the weekly chart here, it's a higher low. It's kind of a nasty, ugly drawdown, and it's not been the highest performing chart. But again, Cardano is usually a late bloomer in these bull market cycles, right? Last cycle ran, among the hardest of any other coins out there. So it's just quite simply looking for this thing to get above 42 cents, hold above there. If we go above 42 cents, you get long, and then it goes back down below, then you probably want to cut and just take the paper cut. But otherwise, I think you can just wait for this to reclaim the range, and then it's probably going higher. Resistance would be, up here towards like $1.25. So it's a pretty constructive chart right now. I'll take a brief peek at the ADA Bitcoin chart, which has been pretty ugly. And in the sense that, look at this weekly chart, it's pretty nasty. Not going to lie here. Fell out of, lost this level, but same logic would apply. ADA Bitcoin, we reclaim this, all of a sudden we've got a pretty nice, chart going into 2025. So we could at the very minimum back test this, and there's still a lot of meat on the bone against Bitcoin, right? Just to back test this trend line here. This is performance against Bitcoin, right? So that'd be outperforming Bitcoin by 36% just to back test. Then you also have the scenario where you potentially reclaim and then ADA becomes a top performer in 2025. That's yet to be determined, but that's how I would look at this chart. I mean, I think you can probably long on that 42-cent reclaim on the dollar chart, and then that's probably going to coincide with a back test of this. If you have a successful back test, that probably means Cardano is ripping above $1, and you have a really solid setup going into 2025. So I just take it one step at a time.
Awesome. And then are any charts you got your eye on for maybe a potential trade setup or like a key levels you're looking at? Any of the altcoins?
Yeah, so underperformer until it's not, but I've got a lot of stuff on I've got a lot of stuff marked out on Dogecoin. It's a pretty messy chart, and I think it's the chart that it's going to run hard when Bitcoin makes an all-time high. So I think you've got plenty of time to get into it. But again, the range reclaim for Dogecoin would be, it's kind of like this zone here, above 12 to 13 cents. I think we're in good shape, and we potentially see this run really, really hard. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And let's see, do I have the other Doge chart that kind of shows the pattern that you want to look for on Dogecoin? There it is. So if you see this pattern, and I'll highlight it, this pattern, right? You see a huge pump, right? You lose you kind of develop the prior support into resistance, and then you reclaim the range. Basic range reclaim. I mean, that's the name of the game right now. Everything's lost ranges right now, with the exception of like ETH. ETH is still pretty healthy right now, holding the bottom of its range. Here, right? We've held, and we're starting to move back up. For most stuff, it's just look for it to reclaim the ranges and then get long. So you see that pattern on Dogecoin or any other charts, I think it's a pretty straightforward long. I'm long Arweave this morning from $22. It just it was one of the stronger charts. And this is the last chart I'll go over. I actually think Bitcoin Cash is like a really interesting chart as well, but I won't go over that. Maybe another time. Arweave was looking super, super strong. It was in the process of reclaiming its range, right? And then, I didn't sleep on the trade. I closed it before I went to bed. Woke up to just totally nuked this morning, and at a pretty steep discount while Bitcoin was kind of pumping. So I was like, you know what? Don't mind if I just jump right back in at 22, and now we're up to 23, and hopefully going to reclaim the range here and head on up to 40, 50, 60. But really nice opportunity on Arweave this morning on something that was a really, really strong chart over the last week or two, while everything else was fairly weak. Off the bottom, Arweave moved up until last night, 25% off the bottom. And then just for whatever reason, nuked this morning, and we're running it back. So yeah, couple charts out there to keep an eye on for sure.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Forrest. I want to jump back into some news here. So I mentioned the SEC is kind of doing the Michael Jackson moonwalk. They're walking back on some of their egregious accounting bulletins, rules, regulations. And one of them is the often talked about SOB 121, the Staff Accounting Bulletin that pretty much didn't allow banks to custody people's Bitcoin and crypto. Well, that is looking to change. SEC relaxes crypto reporting rules for banks and brokerages. This is from coinpedia.org. The SEC has opened a path for banks and brokerages to avoid reporting their customers' crypto holdings on their balance sheets, provided they mitigate associated risks. With an election year on the horizon, the SEC shift may be influenced by the anticipation of pro-crypto governance. But this is conditions-based if they meet certain conditions. Now, this is the one thing that people continue to talk about. People like Michael Saylor, right? He had his little bullet point list of what needs to happen for Bitcoin to get to $1 million. The ETF, I forget what the second one was. And the last one was this, right? SOB 121 or the fair accounting. That one was passed. And then this is the final one. What are your thoughts on this, Forrest, and the potential impact if banks are now able to start custodying people's crypto?
I mean, I guess it's good for crypto, but like the whole point of like why have your bank custody your crypto? That there's just like I, I don't know.
To be clear,
Bullish, I guess.
I
It is.
agree. I agree with you 100%. I think if you buy Bitcoin for to hedge against government, hedge against debasement, there's no point in letting someone else hold it. That defeats the entire purpose, right? You want to self-custody. I'm thinking in the broader spectrum of the people that just want to speculate on price, the people that want to maybe hold for 1-2 years, hold through one or two market cycles, and like, look, I don't want to custody this thing myself. So you either have self-custody, nah, I don't want to deal with it. Seed phrases, I don't trust myself. Whatever the people's reasoning is. Two, an exchange, Coinbase, Kraken, Binance. I think people still have some PTSD with what happened with FTX, what happened with Voyager. Or here comes Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank. They've been around for hundreds of years. They got the federal government backing it. They got master accounts at the Federal Reserve. People, we can assume if those are their two options, a crypto exchange or their bank, they're probably going to go with their bank. So that's kind of like the reason I think this could potentially be pretty big for a Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah, totally agree. Like in a perfect world for me, it's like you just have stable coins in your Phantom wallet or your backpack wallet or your MetaMask on your phone, and that's how you pay with your groceries. And then you don't have to use a bank at all. Like I don't want like I know that if I keep money at my bank, they don't have that money. They've like I think it's 0% reserve ratio now or 1%. It's like ridiculous. So they don't have that money. I would rather just custody all of my own money and actually know, hey, I've got a stable coin USDC that is backed by, fiat or whatever, which again is kind of a little bit self-defeating in the sense that, what are these actually, the money's backed by what treasuries better than in a bank account that's not backed at all. I don't know. There's not a perfect solution yet, but yeah, I just prefer not to use, let banks have my crypto if I can help it.
Amen to that. But it doesn't mean that the average user coming in won't decide that. That is their best course of action. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite projects, and I know you're pretty bullish on it too, Forrest, is Chainlink. So this is a post from their X account, transforming the $30 trillion global trade industry. 7 ways how Chainlink and blockchain can pave the way to a new era of global trade. Talking about interoperability, of course, with their CCIP, their cross-chain interoperability protocol, saying it's essential in connecting all supply chain systems and integrating real-world data on-chain. Financing, the current financial system is inefficient. Moving trade finance on-chain, supported by smart contract, would drastically increase efficiency. Documentation, right? Talking about the current system is paper-based, slow. Coordination, fraud, right? Global trade today suffers from a lack of verification, tracking, and transparency, which leads to issues like counterfeit goods and double financing, errors, and visibility. What are your thoughts on this, Forrest? And are people sleeping on Chainlink and the potential of what this project can do?
Yeah, the thing with Chainlink is like the scope for what they're trying to accomplish is just so large. But we kind of yet to see them actually do it. And not to say that I'm not trying to beat up Chainlink. I like Chainlink. And I think they have a bright future, but it's like, when does this stuff go live is the question that I would have. And do they actually accomplish this? It's not, transforming a $30 trillion global trade industry is kind of easier said than done. So, it's one thing to do a, Twitter write up on it and to kind of post this. And yeah, that might, be a very bullish roadmap. But how do they actually execute, and can they actually, this is something that is very difficult to do that they're trying to do and isn't going to happen overnight. But if you're, long-term minded, then yeah, I think Chainlink is solid.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty bullish on Chainlink, and I agree. You talk about $30 trillion global trade and connecting all the private blockchains and public blockchains and banks and this and that. It's a pretty massive feat But I think we're seeing an acceleration, and part of that has to do with BlackRock, the ETFs, and that damn stock exchange down in Texas that they're building. You know there's going to be some sort of blockchain involved. You know there is some sort of tokenized securities on there that are able to trade 24/7 via the blockchain. And Chainlink is the front runner, right? Partnerships with Swift, DTCC. Their CCIP protocol has been onboarding projects and users consistently over the last several months. Now, when this all comes to fruition and is all in place and it's been working for a set amount of months, and how we're going to see it, sure. Can that take a lot of time? Yeah, but the whole idea is if you want exposure to this and you want exposure to this future, you don't want to wait till it's all there and it's going and the prices, token price is $200, $300, $400. You want to get in now, right? And I'm not saying go buy Chainlink, but you should probably maybe think about going to buy Chainlink. $12.79. Only what is that? Only 24. No, that's not that. Trying to look at their so their circulating supply, 608 million link tokens. I think the max is 1 billion. So staking is live. You have the link token being used as a universal gas token with CCIP. The big partnerships and the people they're working with. I mean, to me, this is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, I don't. You want to talk about low risk, potential high reward? I can't think of another project outside of maybe like Ethereum, like low risk, very high reward, other than Chainlink, right? I mean, am I crazy? Forrest, in the longer term,
it's a solid project. I mean, yeah, and I think it also trades pretty decently in line with ETH, right? So it's an ERC20 token. I know it's chain agnostic, and they can it's the interoperability thesis, but it generally does trade well when ETH is trading well. So if you're bullish on ETH, then Chainlink's probably going to perform well.
Yeah. And then I also want to talk about this. Forrest, there's so many people that throw random numbers and just like price targets, and well, here's one of them. People are saying $2,800 Solana, and they're kind of referring to this chart of ETH in 2017, Solana going back to 2021, heading into this cycle, kind of showing some of the similarities. What is your, and you don't have to speak on this $2,800 one for us, but what is your absolute most bullish case for Solana in this market cycle? Is there a target in your mind or a price that you're going to be like, all right, this is pretty close to the top. I'm either going to DCA out or sell my bags, take some profit. Well, what's your best case scenario for Solana in this cycle?
I think the absolute, sorry, I'm lagging a little bit. I think the absolute best case scenario for Solana is probably going to be 1,400, and that's like extremely high. That's like full on crazy blow off top. And the way that I kind of arrive at that number is if you look at Ethereum and you assume Ethereum has like a $650 billion market cap. Right now, Ethereum, I believe, has 378. Right. So if ETH just like a little under doubled, ETH went to 6K, and then Solana was able to fully match Ethereum, then yeah, I mean, that would be about $1,400 to $1,800 Solana. But I personally don't see that happening in this market cycle. That'd be a full catch up from Solana to match Ethereum. I think Ethereum's still a little ahead of Solana in a few things. Solana, obviously, you can make the case, the amount of value transfer that they have and the amount of users that they have is up there with ETH. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that it's going to catch up fully this market cycle. It could. For me, anything over $1,000 Solana, you probably want to be selling. Anything over like 500 or 600, to be honest, you probably want to be selling.
Yeah, I'm more in the $1,000 camp. That's kind of my thing. But would I be surprised if it hit 1,400? No. 2,800 though. I think eventually, if Solana continues to grow and do what it's doing, yeah. But this cycle, I don't think so. I just don't. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, great. Make a lot of money. I do want to give one more big thank you to our channel sponsor, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you want to learn how Cams can help your business scale and grow, visit bluewiretech.com. So big thank you to Forrest for joining us today. He'll be joining us again next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Super excited for that. What is the weekend going to bring us? Are we going to see a Sunday pump? What is the charts going to look like? We'll bring that to you. Also, guys, Ada video drops in about 1 hour. Don't miss it. It's going to be a really good one. Any parting words for us before we... Tornado.
No, just hang in there. I think there's, I mean, I don't want to be too hopeful, and then maybe we get that one little, stab lower that I think is possible. But I think the worst is behind us. The main seller of Bitcoin over the last several weeks is now out of the market. Or if they just sent their final coins, they'll be out of the market in the next 24 to 48 hours. I think it's a bright future from here, to be quite honest. I think the next couple months are going to be really, really solid. So, hey, if you ever wanted to take an allocation, I think Bitcoin gets back over 59K. It's a good sign to be buying.
Amen to that. Want to say anything? No. Ashley wishes you all a great weekend. And with that being said, Rocco, thank you so much for tuning in. Have an absolutely amazing weekend. Come back Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube. We love you guys. Until then. Peace.
Sin City, crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy a dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.